Welcome back, friends. So what does this time of silence, albeit marked by certain moments dictated by our Lord, teach mothers? And I'm in my mind. I'm having more specifically recent mothers who've given birth. Can they appropriate some of these um, behaviors of Our Lady and glean some benefit for them? And I think I think that's exactly right. And I know for my own self this was the case. So our second one was an emergency cesarean. And I had picked this particular obstetrician based on the fact that he had the lowest C-section rate
Right. Yeah.
in Scripps Hospital in La Jolla. And I looked and I looked, and he had the lowest rate. So when he said,
Need one. Right.
20 minutes of looking at me, his assistant was there, and the baby had to come out. The heart rate had dropped by half, and things
Right.
weren't looking good.
Right.
And so this is what he tells Ted and I. And I don't think, and I know it's not because just of this, because we will have a second baby with him, and he gives the same advice with our third child. He'll say, don't do anything unless it is absolutely necessary for the next 6 weeks. Take the time and just heal.
Right.
And so there would be a few things we would need to attend to, like Our Lady, but really have the mindset of, is this necessary? And only do those things. And I think that was very, very, very good advice. And for the next 5 births, I
Mhm.
would attend to that.
Right.
And that was the only cesarean I had. So, um,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that when we fail to kind of enter into what we should rightfully call the liturgical life of our Blessed Mother, right? Because that is what she's going through. She's going through the ritual liturgies that were prescribed for the Jewish people. When we fail to enter into them, I think that and that doesn't mean that as Christians that we do like Jewish ritual. I'm not saying that at all. But there is a liturgical life that she's living. And some of the things that were um, a part of the Jewish tradition are not things that we need to separate ourselves from. And particularly that time after the birth of the child, that particular time of rest and just recollection, being with the baby. I like to call that period, your baby moon, right? That just when you're getting to know the new the little baby, and that all those precious days should just not be rushed through. And there is a prudence that was there, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with per se quote unquote uncleanness per se, right? Because we know that our Lord, by his entrance into life through the Blessed Mother, kind of removed that element, that aspect of it, that it's not through purity or ritual impurity or not. That's not how one enters into a life of grace with God, right? That was restored and renewed through baptism, right? So that element of it is left behind with the old covenant. But one should not, I mean, and to kind of beat a dead horse here, but one should not throw away the baby with the bathwater when there is an element of liturgical life, particularly that can be implied in in the home. It would be good. It would make good sense to make use of those examples.
that's right. That time spent fondling and nuzzling the new
Yeah,
baby is critical.
it is.
And depending on the size of the little one, that that time to get that baby settled
Mhm.
will vary. I had one baby, he was 8'14", and he was pretty settled in 3 weeks.
Right.
I had a pair of twins, they were 5'2" and 5'14", and
Right.
they took much longer because they started out smaller.
Right.
And in terms of the twins, and another twin mother told me cancel everything for the next 2 years.
Probably true. That's probably
I
fair.
took that to heart, and it turned out to be true because I was able to keep my memories and my sanity during that
Right.
time,
Right.
which when I studied twin moms,
Not always the case. Right.
both.
Right. Not always the case. Well, I think that it's interesting too that you even see, going back to this whole grace building on nature, that even in the secular world, there's an understanding because what was the Family and Medical Leave Act? What was the length of time? 6 weeks,
Yes,
right? 6 weeks. Like there is some element, and 6 times 7, last time I checked, is 42, right? I mean, so you're pretty much close to that same time frame that even the secular world recognizes that that's kind of a holy time. It's a holy time for a family that should not be impinged on,
that's right. That's right.
particularly for the mother and the child. So, so very important. I mean, I do wish that we would kind of return to the recognition that the mother in the home with the child is not only necessary for those first 40 days, but that would be that element of grace, then building on that nature of those 6 weeks and recognizing the importance of her role, right? That it may not be a money producing role, but it certainly is a moral producing role. And that a country that surrenders the moral formation of their children will not do very well when it comes to the monetary formation of its people.
That's right. That's right. So we have an exhortation. So probably by the time we get to the exhortation, this show will be after February 2nd, Candlemas. And we have a beautiful tradition of blessing candles and blessing the throat, St. Blaise, the blessing of the throat. Um, Again, there's that grace building on nature. Probably a lot of throat illnesses are in the winter, and the blessing of the throat, the candles. Jesus is the light of the world who has come, right? A light for revelation to the Gentiles and for glory to your people, Israel. So I encourage you to do that. And you know what? If you've passed it and your church didn't do it, uh, I don't think that there's any harm of going and getting it done after the fact, you know, after the fact. So, um, mothers embrace the silence, and that is part of our calling as mothers. Reflect on the example of Our Lady who pondered, and those moments of reflection and pondering helped her handle the reality that Simeon foretold to her. So, cherish your moments of contemplation with your little one, because that too might need to serve as a time of sustenance for you later on when the child is now an adult.
Right. Yeah, it's very true. Because and I do think I'd always wondered, what did it mean when it said, that your heart would be pierced, that the thoughts of many may be laid bare, right? That it was always intriguing to me. And I think it was Father Chad Ripperger, right, the who made the comment. I believe it was him, where he said, Our Lady's heart was wounded, so that the thoughts of many could be laid bare. And so we as mothers have recourse to her, who, when our children are struggling, right? Our Lady can really open up those thoughts, right? Those thoughts have been made bare so that she can assist us in her, through her own suffering, in bearing us up when we suffer with our own children. And she can really help us enter deeply or more deeply into a better understanding of our own children, right? Because she does, she never stopped pondering, right?
No,
Like
she never does.
right, her whole life was one of pondering and silence, and so her ability to observe is, what she sees and what she's aware of is truly profound. But as a mother, she certainly enters into our own maternity with us insofar as we're willing to allow her to cooperate with us, right? She, like our Lord, who is the great gentleman, our Blessed Mother, is ever the lady, and she will never impose, but she will always assent to assist those who come to her, right? I mean, that's the beautiful prayer of the Memorare, right? Never was it known that anyone who came to you, right, that was left unaided. Never.
That's right.
But we have to be the ones who come to her. She will never force herself because she's sitting quietly and pondering.
That's right. She'll never force. On the website, I do have an addendum on Our Lady in view point of view of the church fathers and the Eucharist. So I'll just direct yourself over there if you care to read that. It's something I'll be offering to a group coming up in the future. All right, my friends. Till the next time. Fide Sriracha.